Hello and welcome to On the Wrist. Today we have the Pagani Design Tiffany Blue reference number PD1690. Now this watch is an homage of the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 124300, but this watch, coming in at $100 from AliExpress, has some surprising value and surprising features for that cost. We'll go through a quick intro and some background, and then get right into the review. Now before we get started, I do want to mention this is my personal watch. I bought it used, which is why it's so scratched up, but I didn't realize the extent of how scratched up it was until I put it under this more harsh overhead light. As you can see here, under regular lighting, which is what most of the photos of this watch were when I bought it, the scratches aren't nearly as visible, and under most lighting search situations, this watch still looks great. It's only when I have these harsh overhead lights for the video that it's so scratched. And before we get into the comparison, I do want to clarify a term I used at the beginning of the video, homage. An homage is something that pays tribute to another design, typically used in watches to describe things like this watch that look very similar to a much more popular and typically much more expensive other kind of model. This is different than a copy because obviously this has Pagani's unique logo on it, but it does obviously look like a Rolex Oyster Perpetual. Now let's see how good of an homage this is. So if I pull up the Rolex on the left here, the dial color is a few shades off. They do copy the indices quite well. Obviously the 12 o'clock marker is different, and obviously the text on the dial is different. But aside from that, the Oyster style bracelet and the overall case shape is pretty similar to the original Rolex. But there is a difference in the actual size of the watch. The Oyster Perpetual is a 41mm watch, whereas this watch is just about 40mm. Now I'll pull up the technical details on the side here. So as I said, the diameter is 39.7 per the US site. The lug-to-lug width they're saying is 45mm. The thickness is 11mm thick with a lug width of 20mm. The crystal is a sapphire crystal, and it's powered by a Seiko NH35 movement, tried and true tested movement. 200 meters of water resistance, but I have no way to prove or check that. And of course there's lume on the hands and indices. If we get a nice look at the bracelet here, this is an Oyster style bracelet that has a very nice taper from 20mm down to 16 at the base. Buckle is 18mm in width, and this is the standard Pagani Design clasp. Now this is my first time handling a Pagani Design, and I will complain that getting this open is a little bit of a pain. You have to get your nail under there. But what I was kind of blown away by is the fact that there is a micro adjustment ability here in the bracelet. However, it is quite challenging to engage, to actually make that adjustment. So it's nice that there is a way to get some better fit out of the bracelet, but I do wish the mechanism for doing it was easier. I'll put some links of how to adjust it in the description. If we stop and look at some of the finer details of the case, you'll see there's some nice combination of mirror polish on the sides and around the bezel here, as well as brushed on the bracelet and on the top surfaces. The case back is a solid case back with mountains on it, for whatever reason, exploration or something along those lines. Solid case back. The bracelet itself has screws, helps ensure that it stays well secured, and it makes it easy to change out. And overall, I'm actually quite impressed by how this watch feels. When I pick it up, it's got a solid weight to it. All the parts feel like they're well executed. The bracelet, I was actually shocked by how comfortable it was and how solid it felt. The last time I handled a mostly Chinese brand L'Oreal, I was really disappointed by the bracelet, but here, for $100, I'm actually really impressed. Again, I don't really like how it's difficult. You have to get your nails in there to get that to pop. And the micro adjustment is very challenging to do, but the fact that those things are there and solid are a real testament to the value of this watch at $100 US. One thing I do want to mention here though, it looks like it says maybe Pi time on here. That's what I see. Even no matter how close I get, I can't really tell what that is. Maybe it's PE time, PT time, PE lime, but to me I like to think it's Pi time. I think that's just a little funny detail. If you know what that actually says, let me know down in the comments below, because I really can't figure it out even though it's right in front of me. But actually, you know what we're talking about? You know what time it is? It looks like it's time to like and subscribe. Liking this video and subscribing to the channel really helps it in the YouTube metric and helps me produce better content overall. So if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and maybe even drop a comment, who knows. Thank you very much for watching. Let's get back to the review. Here we have it on my 7¼ inch wrist. This bracelet I got a pretty nice fit on. I like it just a smidge loose so it can roll around. The look on the wrist is excellent. I think around 40 millimeters is my favorite diameter. I think it fits so nicely on most wrists. Gives it good presence where there's absolutely no overhang, there's plenty of space, but it still has excellent presence. That color pops from across the room, and I actually gotta say, this is one of the watches I get the most compliments on because of the classic design and the excellent color of the dial. And here you see it in the natural light. As I said at the beginning of the video, the scratches are much less visible in regular lighting, and I do love how it looks in the sun. Now let's talk MSRP and value. As I said at the beginning of the video, the MSRP on the AliExpress site is approximately $100. I think for that price point with the sapphire crystal, this well-executed design and really top-notch bracelet from my point of view, I think at $100, this definitely sits really well value-wise for price. Plus, you get some very classic Rolex-esque style, and it just is in general a great-looking watch. And I really like that even though it's an homage and it's it's on the affordable end, it still feels like fairly high quality for the price. I will say, even though I've been really pleased with it, I do think it scratches fairly easily. That might just be because I can't tell the difference between the scratches I got that came with it versus the horrible things I've done to it, but it does feel like it scratches easier than you would expect. Overall, I've been really happy wearing this, and like I said, despite owning a bunch of other higher-end watches, this is the watch that's gotten me the most compliments in the last 2 weeks. But let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about this watch? Do you have any experience handling Pagani Design watches? Do you like homages? What about this price point for the feature set? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. That's all from me today. This has been On The Wrist. Thank you for watching.